Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
2 hours into our O'Connor and Company morning extravaganza that we perform for you every day for 4 hours. If you missed any of it, please subscribe to our podcast. It's super convenient. You get every episode downloaded right to your device. That includes every hour broken out, so you can just listen to those hours that you missed. And every interview will be broken out as well. It really, Carrie, Lukas, in for Julie Gunlock today. Have you subscribed to the podcast yet? Just say yes.
Yes, of course I have. No, Larry, I'm almost always listening while I'm driving my kids around in the morning. So I get
so you don't need
vast majority.
That's right.
But
That's why
I should sign up anyway.
I want you to know that, especially from 6 o'clock on, I try to keep it really clean and mature, knowing that your children in particular are in the back seat of the car. We are 2 hours in, and we have just scratched the surface on last night's historic State of the Union address. We'll continue our coverage all morning. We haven't even talked about the stirring and emotional tribute to Charlie Kirk last night. We want to share that with you. Also at 8:05, Congressman Jim Jordan, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, who was in the chamber. And then at 8:35, Nick Freitas, former Virginia delegate, now a podcaster, get his impression. And Carrie, let's bring in Virginia Senator Bryce Reeves, as he has, the enviable job now of being the loyal opposition in Richmond. And, boy, you've got your hands full with the Democrats' agenda. Senator Reeves, thanks for joining us.
Larry, Carrie, good morning. I certainly do. It's been a whirlwind of a session so far, and we're dealing with Hillary 2.0, and it's a challenge at best.
Hillary without the charm. Yeah, so we wanted you to come on and sort of give us your critique and analysis of Governor Spanberger, providing the response to President Trump's State of the Union, because the Democrat Party obviously thinks Spanberger is the wave of the future, and she's got the secret sauce, and she perfectly represents them. But I'm concerned because my understanding is you're being punished by Democrats down there whenever you criticize the governor. So, I'm sure that's going to make you really hold back, right?
You got it. Yeah, they took one of my committees away from me because in the New York Times article that you two mentioned earlier in the program, I was asked how she compares to Mamdani. I said the only difference is Mamdani admits he's a socialist. And if you look at our governor and see how she was trained and you read the article, truly read the New York Times article, she discloses how she was such a great case manager for the CIA, how she used to bring people in, build their trust, lie to their face, carry 5 different passports, and gain information from them. And so she's a master at it. And I think what happened was my comment provided a little bit of narcissistic injury, and she didn't like it, so she reached out.
Last night she was obviously really trying to hit this Democratic theme of being that they're the party of affordability. I'm a Virginia. I live here in Virginia, and I don't feel like that's really what the theme has been so far. You want to speak a little bit about her real record on these issues?
Sure. They're going to take our guns. They're going to raise your taxes, 50 some odd taxes, and they're going to try to ram through this, quote, fair redistricting. The only person it's fair to is to the Democrats, so they can go 10-1. They're completely off the rails on a socialist agenda. Most of America is slowly finding out, and I think it's going to help us in the midterms maintain the House. The president was pretty direct. I think he was on his 4th season of The Apprentice as long as he went, but the reality is he hit some key points. He laid it out to them, and he didn't take their crap, and he just went. And he asked that question, which I thought was very telling. You don't have to like the president or you can have TDS, but when he says, hey, the job of the government here is to protect our own American citizens, and you can't stand for that, what does that say? What does that say about us as a nation?
I think we know exactly what it says. We're speaking with Bryce Reeves, Virginia State Senator, covers Culpeper County, Greene County, Madison County, Orange County, Rappahannock County. That's God's country is what it is. You mentioned redistricting. What happens now to your congressional district and your congressional representation if the Democrat scheme goes through And what do you make of this latest poll that shows right now it would go down in defeat?
Well, I think Virginians are waking up to the reality of what they were trying to do. The big steal is what I call it. And I think our representative might be Dan Helmer, who they uniquely crafted the 7th congressional district, which was Hillary 2.0's old district. And,
so you're in the lobster. That's right. Rappahannock is right there, right in the middle of the lobster they drew.
You got it. You're going to have on one of my dear friends and former Army Ranger buddies, Nick Freitas later. We served together. He was in the House. I'm in the Senate representing the same area. And he's going to say a lot of the same things I'm going to say is, Dan Helmer, unfortunately a West Point graduate and a Rhodes Scholar, is the guy who's carrying the Take Your Firearms bill and proud of it. And, I don't understand how a two-time combat vet gets that attitude, but whatever.
Yeah.
But he's Arlington down to Goochland County. What do those two, Goochland and Arlington, have in common? Nothing fits the description of the requirements for redistricting, and no one's talking about minority majority districts anymore. They're just talking about one majority, and that's the Democrat Party.
Mm.
Do you feel like people are waking up? Because you are, as you're saying, this has just been such a kind of a radical from a departure of what Spanberger promised to run on. And I do think, just from my own neighborhood, that a lot of people are surprised. Are you feeling that where you are?
I am, Carrie, and that's a great segment into, we just got to get the word out. I think once people find out who she truly is, really look at it. Within 2 hours, she reversed direction with 287G and helping our federal partners get rid of, serious criminals. We've had leaders in MS-13. I was in law enforcement a long time ago in Prince William County, and we were arresting MS-13 members then. It's hypocrisy at the highest level, but people need to understand who this governor is. Read the New York Times article. You'll understand if you really can read through what she's trying to say there. She'll tell you exactly who she is, and she lays out who she is. So I'm not surprised that she's going to sign all these bills and sink us. Mark my words today on your show, Larry, that in another year from now, we're going to be ranked in the 30s down there with good old Maryland by CNBC on how we do for business. It's going to be awful.
But of course, they'll blame Trump for that, Bryce Reeves. So that's the upside.
Of course.
Yeah. Listen, you keep us updated on what's going on in Richmond, please. A lot of your colleagues are jumping in here. We do like the way you get right to the point and you're direct, and I appreciate it. And you've become one of the really clear spokespeople for the Republican resistance in Richmond. And we got to keep elevating your ideas and the way you communicate them, because listen, we will live another day here in Virginia, and it's cyclical. There will be another election, and I want to make sure that your name is in the mix. Also, say hi to my friends Brooke and Ann Miller. They're down there right in the middle of your district.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you know the Millers. They're good people.
Great people.
Thank you, Bryce. Appreciate it. 7:15. A horrific scene in New York as members of New York's finest, the NYPD, the people who we revere, because on 9/11, they ran up those stairs of the World Trade Center tower trying to save as many people as they could, many of them giving their lives in service. We had years, if not decades, of politicians of all stripes holding hands, shoulder to shoulder with those cops, saying that we support our first responders. NYPD, they are the first line of defense. The police department of New York City has an anti-terrorism unit that rivals some countries.
Yep.
The budget and the ability that New York is literally ground zero in more ways than one for terror targets, for the worst of the worst around this world. And it's the NYPD that has to run interference for them. And that's why we revere them and we respect them. And 2 days ago, but the video really hit yesterday, while performing their duties in Washington Square Park, they were inundated by adults. Because people say, oh, these are just kids having fun. No, these were adults, men who were hurling not just snowballs, chunks of snow, chunks of ice at these cops. The cops were not amused. The cops told them to stop. It kept going. They were inundated with this. And you've got people, politicians like Zohran Mamdani, who are just saying, oh, it was just a snowball fight. Pop quiz, Carrie Lukas. Would you call hurling chunks of ice and snow at police officers in uniform while they are performing their duty? Would you call that just good old-fashioned innocent fun, or would you call it assault of a police officer?
Well, the news reports are saying that this ended with two police officers being taken to the hospital with head, neck, and face injuries. That's ridiculous.
Sounds like assault to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is part of a larger story, both of the disrespect to the cops, the disrespect to law and order, but also the absolute gaslighting of the new mayor. This mayor who wants to pretend like, oh, this was all the plan. Oh, this is just fun and games. This was just the snow. Oh, I just, wanting to convince people that the night that 19, tragic homeless people died in the freezing cold, that was just a rash of overdose deaths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just all happened to occur when temperatures dropped below zero and we refused to clear the streets of criminal vagrants.
Yep. Yeah. Nobody's buying it. Nobody's buying it.
And trust me, on January 6th, which was not a good day in American history, I wasn't happy with what happened on January 6th. But if you were involved in what happened on January 6th and you walked into the Capitol and you brushed against a Capitol police officer, you faced charges up to 20 years for assaulting an officer. But here's your mayor, Zohran Mamdani, just waving his hand at what happened in Washington Square Park. Cut 73.
From the videos that I've seen, it looks like a snowball fight. I think that there were two officers who were facing lacerations on their face.
Call for prosecution of those who pelted them?
Look, I've seen the videos of this snowball fight. I think that it was a snowball fight.
Snowball fight. Interesting thing about a snowball fight. Again, pop quiz, Carrie, Lukas. You ready?
Let's go.
If I come up to you in front of your house on a snowy day and I start throwing snowballs at you and you do not fight back and you don't throw anything back at me and I keep throwing them at you and you end up injured in the hospital and you never picked up a snowball and threw it at me, is that a snowball fight?
Yeah, I mean, Larry, this is obviously the answer is no. Just to get that, just so we can get the quiz
because
part of this.
Because that is exactly what happens in this video. The police officers are not engaged in this. Yeah. They're not fighting back.
I mean, and honestly, we all, anybody who's been a parent and knows what a snowball fight entails, knows how quickly things can go from fun and games to somebody being furious and needing to make sure that that it's all fun and games and not what ends up being the equivalent of rocks and really can become quite dangerous. And it's clear that line was crossed here.
Yeah. Also, by the way, take a listen to this, because the crowd does not sound like it's all fun and games. As Zohran Mamdani, how many times did he say snowball fight? It just looked like a snowball fight. It looked like a fun and games snowball fight. Take a listen to what it sounded like as the police officers were walking through the crowd, getting pelted with chunks of ice. Cut 72. Sounds kind of hostile.
Yeah. How hard would it be, Larry, too, for him just to say, yes, this is unacceptable. That should never happen to our officers.
That's right.
We're going to investigate it fully.
NYPD deserves respect by everyone, and that's unacceptable and wrong and criminal, by the way. Thank you very much. It was a snowball fight. Let me tell you something. If these cops had engaged and started throwing chunks of ice, the same kind of thing that they were getting pelted with at the crowd, that would be police brutality.
Of course.
Are you kidding? We'd have protests in the street over those police officers. Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
A doubt.
Yep.
And by the way, this doesn't happen in a vacuum. 2 weeks ago, a police officer, we've seen the body cam footage, was called to a house because the man of the house, I don't know if he was a husband or father, whatever, was acting in an erratic way. The family called the police because that's what people do when they're in danger. They call the police. The police acted professionally, respectfully. They were invited into the home. They went in to try to talk to the guy, and the guy went after them with a kitchen knife. Ugh. The police officer backed up several times, told him to put it down, told him to disengage. Eventually, he had to take out his firearm. He had to neutralize the threat. Zohran Mamdani gave a press conference saying that there would be no charges against the man who went after the cop with a knife and expressed sympathy for the family, saying no family should have to go through this. as if it was the police officer that had in some way inflicted pain on this family. That's the precursor. That's the foundation of what happened yesterday in Zohran Mamdani's New York to these cops.
You know, and this is part of the larger, we've been talking a lot about the State of the Union and the question of whose side are you on? And this is another example where always, when it comes to the mayor, he's on the side of the person breaking the law, the person acting illegally, not on the side of law and order. And it's a bad look, and there's going to be real consequences for the poor, good citizens of New York. But it's a warning sign for all of us.
Hey, Marxists gonna Marxist. It's 7:23.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
7:37, O'Connor and Company here on this day after the State of the Union. It was a long one, but it was a good one. And we've got some clips to share with you if you missed any of it. Coming up at 8:05, Representative Jim Jordan was in the House of Representatives, that is, during the speech. We'll get his impression of what it was like. And at 8:35, Nick Freitas will have his analysis of Abigail Spanberger's sad trombone performance. It's Larry O'Connor with Carrie Lukas, president of the Independent Women's Forum, in for Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You know what? You're very, very welcome. Thank you for being had. Wait.
It's like, I'll let that one go, Larry.
Yeah,
we can just move on.
We can just go right past it.
Yeah,
no, that's not good. All right, there was one moment in particular. It was an hour and 49 minutes by my count, longest in history. There were a lot of moments that unified America, should have at least.
Yep.
There were a lot of moments where the president did his best to emphasize those 80-20 issues that all Americans, Republican and Democrat, not the actual bought and paid for Democrats who do, are elected officials in that chamber, but those of us in the country who don't see everything through partisan political lenses. He tried to emphasize those things so that we could have something that we could agree on. Delivering the Medal of Honor to two incredible military heroes. Of course, the USA hockey team there with the gold medals. Wow. And they came out right in the press pool, and every single reporter that I saw just sat on their hands and stared. That was not partisan politics. It was a gimme. Yep. There was no reason why reporters couldn't applaud that.
Yes, clap. Yeah.
The impression is that they hate America. Yep. The impression is that they're not on our side. There were a lot of moments like that. One moment in particular really, really rings out. And it wasn't about a military hero. It wasn't about a hockey team. It wasn't about a little girl who, was injured or, trying to recover from an illness or anything. It was about the fundamental role that those men and women are sworn to do as their duty as elected officials, members of Congress in our federal government. It was a very, very crystallizing moment. And the Democrats failed. They failed the test. And I hope this really does begin the narrative for the midterm elections. Take a listen. It's cut 75, and this is the moment from last night's speech.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Of course, you can't tell on radio, so Carrie and I are here to tell you, because we saw it, only half the room stood.
It didn't have to be that way, Larry. This is an easy one. The Democrats should have just stood up, clapped their hands.
Yep. It should be easy, because they all swear an oath.
Yeah, exactly.
It was such a clarifying moment. And it'll be interesting to see the walk back today. It'll be interesting to see how they try to explain themselves. It'll be very interesting to see how the likes of Jake Tapper and George Stephanopoulos and Morning Joe either downplay it or don't even draw any attention to it at all. As Chris Plant often says, the most insidious form of the media bias is what they choose not to report. Yep. And they will probably just pretend that didn't happen, but we know it did. in the ads. Well, the ads write themselves, don't they?
Exactly. I don't think that it's going to be so easy to ignore just because there's going to be a lot of pushing out of those clips today and in the weeks and months to come.
There weren't your typical, he did not have your typical laundry list of legislative priorities and agendas. A couple of things. He spent a lot of time talking about how bad things were and what he's been able to do already. In fact, by the way, one moment when he highlighted the fact that the murder rate in America is at its lowest point since 1900. That's not a typo. That's not a in 125 years. CBS News fact-checked it, and they said, he's right. That's true.
Yes, exactly. For once, the fact checkers get it right.
So he did a lot of that. This is what we were living through. This is why we lived through it, and now this is what I've done to fix it. But there was one piece of legislation he said needs to be passed. That was the SAVE Act. Simple notion: prove you're a citizen when you register to vote, and prove you are who you say you are when you go to vote. Take a listen to this, cut 77, because President Trump, he has a way when he goes off script, off teleprompter, to cut right to the heart of the matter. That's what he did here.
And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy. Just said they want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard. Wants them to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a Social Security card. Yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of them all, voting in America. No, it's no good. No good. Both Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly agree on the policy that we just enunciated. And Congress should unite and enact this common sense, country-saving legislation right now, and it should be before anything else happens.
Hard to argue with that. And he went on to say the only reason you wouldn't want it is because you want to cheat.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. It was a fabulous way to just cut through the left's supposed argument against this, as if it's so hard for people to come up with an ID, which we know in every other part of life, you need an ID to get around and to do business. And
in every other part of the world, you need an ID to vote.
Of course,
but not here. Yeah, it's kind of ironic that there's a fundamental truth that there are certain things in this country that are only available to citizens. One of them is voting, and yet these people who swear to uphold the Constitution don't want to actually verify that a person is a citizen. What's the point? What's the point of having things that are exclusive to citizens if we're never going to ask people to prove that they're a citizen?
Yeah.
All right, a little bit more, including the moment where Ilhan Omar just couldn't stay quiet. Hakeem Jeffries begged them. He actually did a pregame, and he said, everyone, just stay quiet. If you don't need to stand, you don't need to cheer, but don't make a fool of yourself. And Ilhan Omar could not help herself. We're going to share that moment with you in a moment. First, though, it's 7:44.
From your unique vantage point, what was it like looking out at Congresswoman Omar and Congresswoman Tlaib?
You know, it was shameful, really. And I came this close to stopping them. We could have probably ejected them from the floor. But, you know, I thought let their actions speak for themselves. The president handled it so well, of course. And if they'd gone a step further, we probably would have ejected them. But I think it was good for them to be there. I think it's good for the American people to see the shame that they brought upon their party and upon themselves. And what a stark contrast between them and between the Republican Party, who are standing and cheering for all these great Americans who deserved all this attention tonight. The brave law enforcement officers, military officials who received all the medals and the honors tonight, the victims of crime. I mean, we're on the right side of common sense on law
Speaker
and justice, on
Mike,
security. And American.
Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, there talking about his unique vantage point. He did see members of the House, like Ilhan Omar, standing and screaming back at the president. Hakeem Jeffries asked them, begged them to stay silent. Just be quiet. That's all you need to do. She got triggered, though. Here's what it sounded like when she and her buddy Rashida Tlaib, they're sitting next to each other. Rashida Tlaib, of course, you know, the congresswoman representing the District of Gaza there in the House. Cut 80 here. Take a listen.
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities. You can hear
the screaming. Okay, so what triggered Ilhan Omar? Well, the president, was talking about illegal immigration and what he's had to deal with the open borders, and specifically focused on the crimes committed by certain members of a certain community in a certain district in Minnesota. Cut 79, please. Cut 79.
The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings those problems right here to the USA, and it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills.
Called them the Somali pirates. That triggered her. She was not happy about that, Carrie.
Yep. Not surprising. There really was some news made in this clip that the president mentioned that he was going to be tasking J.D. Vance with overseeing a war on fraud. Yeah. And, I do think that this is something, if the Democrats are kind of doing looking today at what happened last night and what it means for the future, this should have them nervous because there is a lot of fraud to uncover. They've been on the side of defending it and apologizing for it, and the American people talk about a losing issue. I mean, my gosh, if they come up with more of what happened in Minnesota, more of this abuse of government and taxpayers, that's really bad news for them.
I agree. One other thing, swinging it back to Virginia, there was another person up in the gallery that not everyone around the country would recognize, and I didn't recognize her by her face, but I did by her name and by her story. It was a young woman named Sage. Yep. Remember Sage's bill?
Yep.
That got blocked by Democrats in Richmond. It had a simple notion that parents cannot keep secrets. Teachers and other school employees cannot keep secrets from parents having to do with their children and their children's gender identity or of a sexual nature at all. I think that's a pretty wise thing. You don't want government bureaucrats keeping sexual secrets with minors from their parents, do you? I wouldn't think so. The president acknowledged Sage and Sage's mother for fighting this fight, and Sage has grown up to be a lovely young woman, despite being convinced to pretend to be a boy and then the horrific abuse that she endured because of that. And then the president said this, cut 84. Again, he tried to find things that all Americans should agree on. And by the way, these are things that we did agree on about a minute and a half ago until the woke mind virus took over the party. Take a listen, cut 84.
I agree. No state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we've been talking about this? We must ban it. And we must ban it immediately. Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you. They're crazy.
All right. So that moment, I saw Jake Tapper wringing his hands and lamenting, furrowing his massive brow yesterday on CNN because Donald Trump referred to Democrat politicians as crazy, Carrie Lukas.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy, a crazy stance to have. If you can't stand it with the president on that, that's crazy.
Thank you. That Jake Tapper is concerned that Donald Trump, the president of the United States, acknowledged the fact that what most Americans, I would say, would agree on, which is you're crazy for not supporting the notion that parents shouldn't have their children ripped away from them because they don't agree to change their gender, right? Yep. And yet Jake Tapper is not concerned about the children. He's not concerned about the fact that children are being forever altered and parents are losing their children because of those policies. That he doesn't furrow his brow at. That he doesn't criticize.
Yep. He's only concerned that in this one moment that the president used the term crazy.
Crazy.
Right?
Yes.
That's what's inappropriate.
I'd welcome another term, okay. But, this even though the president had a lot of words last night and he went on, again, probably 25, maybe 30% longer than he needed to, I'm really challenged to find a better word than crazy.
Yep.
It's 7:55.